we are going back to this idea of our color wheel, right? And yesterday we talked about complementary colors, and that complementary colors are directly across from one another on the color wheel. And so, as a way to create a complementary color wheel and to practice working with the paints, we went ahead and we used paints in our palette. So we didn't have to custom mix any colors. So we just used the pairs that we could find in the palette. So we're calling, just to review, we're calling this red orange. You could use either blue yesterday. I used this first blue, which is the ultramarine blue, which is not the blue I normally use. I kind of hate this blue and I don't know why. We used this color as purple, and you could use either yellow. It didn't matter to me which yellow. I prefer the golden yellow. That's just personal, straight personal preference on my part. You could use either yellow. Either yellow is fine. And then the red is this kind of rose, kind of rosy color. And the green is down here next to the black. So you can see I've painted my red and green, my blue and orange, and my purple and yellow. Now, the reason we started with complementary colors is quite simple. Complementary colors, when they're next to each other, kind of clash with each other and make each other look brighter or more brilliant. But when we start mixing complementary colors together, what happens is they neutralize each other. And when they neutralize each other, they create browns. And it's browns that we need to make a realistic skin tone. Now, the advantage to mixing your own browns using complementary colors to create skin tones is instead of us making one brown, which we all know is there's not one skin tone. There's not even one skin tone to use for one person. But I need a rainbow of skin tones. I need to be able to make a lot of different skin tones fairly quickly. And so using this process, we're going to be able to make 6 main skin tone families that also talk about like the undercolor or undertone of skin. And we'll make colors that are a little more interesting than just like taking brown and making it lighter and darker. So here's what we're going to do today. We are going to be combining these two colors to make skin tones. And this is an active mixing process. So don't think that you're going to be able to just instantly take your red and add a little bit of green and ta-da-da, it's going to be a skin tone. Because it does take a little bit more back and forth than that. So that being said, I'm going to start with my red and green. So I'm going to kind of keep my wedges in the same place. And you might also be asking yourself, but Mrs. Hughes, we're going to mix red and green here, and we're going to mix red and green here. Aren't those going to be the same color? They're not. And that's why I said it's like an active mixing process. We want the red and green blend that happens over here to be more of a rosy or reddish brown, while the red and green mix that's over here will be kind of a more greenish, or actually one little bit darker brown. We don't actually want it to be green, obviously. People aren't usually green. Although if you look really carefully at people, we do have greenish spots. So it's important for us to think about that. So these will be technically the same mix of colors, but in different proportions so that these will look different. And I'll post an image of a completed one of these on Google Classroom so that you can see what one looks like. So I'm just going to go back to my red from yesterday, and that's right here. And yes, the same would apply for colored pencil, Andrew. Although the colored pencil companies have gotten really good about having a beautiful array of colors that will be like the colors we talk about today. So I know a lot of colored pencil companies will sell a set that they just call Portrait, and it will have kind of a a greenish tan and a reddish tan. And so like a lot of times they will have those colors kind of already picked for you. But if I was working in colored pencils and making a portrait, I definitely would still want to think about putting like a layer of green underneath another color to make a skin tone. All right, so here's my red. I've added water to it from yesterday. And I am now going to take just the tiniest bit of green. I'm not going to take a lot of green because if I put a lot of green in too fast, it's really going to change the color very quickly. And then what I'm going to do is I have to give it a test. So it doesn't matter to me, and I do recognize that your paper is going to end up a bit of a mess. If the mess bothers you and you want to have a perfect version, we have extra of this paper in your tablet. We're not going to go through all of these sheets. So if you want, you can pop this off and you can test on a separate sheet. And you can see here that when I test, I do have kind of a rosy color, but it's still a little extra like pinky. So I'm going to come over here and grab a little more green, and I'm going to test again. We're getting better. A little bit more green. And I'm testing again. If at any point then you question what it looks like, I can add more water. So I'm going to just grab just the tiniest bit more green. I want this to be just a little browner. There we go. That's the color I'm looking for. Now I am going to paint that color here. And like I said, if you put this testing out on the outer edge of your paper, that's completely fine. If you want a test sheet, sometimes I like the test sheet because I can label the test sheet and say, you know, orange and green combinations. Obviously, if I was making a portrait, some of these colors would be gorgeous colors for lips, right? And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab a little bit of water because I want to see what this looks like as I move toward the center of the circle and as it gets a little lighter. So I cleaned my paintbrush out, dabbed it off a little bit. Need to dry it a little better this time. And I'm just going to pull it down. And you can see that we have these lovely rosy tones here that we would use in a portrait. Mixing orange and green. Or not, red and green. Red and green. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same thing on this other side, but I'm going to begin with my green. So I'm going to find my green patch from yesterday. And I'm now going to add red into the green until I am not going to be painting somebody the same color as Kermit the Frog. And let's see. So I have this patch here. I'm going to come back out here and I'm going to test it. And you can see I've made something that's nearly black in a portrait that would work for eyelashes, that would work for hair. It would work for shadows. And as I add some water, I see that I have made the most beautiful brown skin tone, which is exactly what I was hoping for. And I did that much quicker than my red and green combo. And I'm going to paint that here. And you can see what a beautiful color that is. I'm going to pull that down a little bit, and then I'm going to go ahead and add some water to my paintbrush. And pull that down a little further just so it gets a little bit lighter. And now I'm going to clean my paintbrush out and mostly dry it off because I want to see what that looks like. Almost all the way lightened up. And you can see that I've made two completely different colors, but both of them would be completely at home in a portrait of nearly anyone. I'm going to do that exact same process with every other color combination. These are both just the red and the green, Andrew. This is red with green. This is green with red. Same colors that are here on the color wheel. Green with red. That's it. Just green and red. And this one was red and green. And I could even make a color that's between the two of these. So I could certainly mix some of this together. So now I've mixed these two colors together and I've made yet another perfectly delicious skin tone. Okay. So all I've used to make all of these skin tones right here are just the two colors, red and green. This is the magic of complementary colors and skin. I'm going to do the same thing now, just moving my way around the circle. So I'm going to make my blue and my orange combo. So I'm going to start up here with my blue. I'm going to add some orange. And again, I'm adding enough orange so that my color isn't blue anymore, right? Nobody's actually blue. I'm going to test it out here, and I can see right away that it's incredibly dark, which is nice. So once again, I've made a color that I can use for hair and shadows. And when I pull it out, I do see that it is, again, a really gorgeous brown. But I don't see it until I get it lightened up a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and paint that one here because that is the blue mixed with the orange. That is a fantastic color. And once again, I'm going to lighten it up a little bit by pulling it down some water. I added too much water to my last triangle and it's all turning into the same color brown. Just going to come back here and just soften this up a little. So you're just going to do this. You're going to keep working your way around the circle, mixing those two pairs until you have made a full color wheel of skin tones.